I was stirring my coffee when the message came through. Just regular drip, black, nothing fancy. Serena always made a production out of it. Milk steamed oat, not dairy, vanilla syrup, frothy cinnamon swirls like she was auditioning for an influencer gig at Starbucks. I always thought it was silly. Now, I understood it was practice for a life I was never meant to be part of. Need space in Cabo with my boss. Don't wait up. No greeting. No punctuation. Not even a fake apology. Just a slap, sent from the lounge of some five-star resort I probably paid for. My thumb hovered over the screen, but I didn't reply. Didn't grip the phone. Didn't mutter, "What the hell?" like some confused sitcom husband. I just nodded. She'd finally sent the one message I had prepared for, but hoped wouldn't come. I took a slow sip and let the taste sit. Bitterness. Felt honest. Then I stood up. Not in a rush. Not like a man chasing anything. I walked to the bedroom, pulled open the top drawer of my nightstand. Behind an old pack of cough drops and a flashlight with dead batteries sat a red leather folder, slim, zipped on 3 sides. I'd labeled it in marker years ago on a night she came home smelling like hotel soap and told me I was paranoid. The label read, "If she ever does it." Inside, everything was in order. Copies of the trust agreement, a checklist of accounts, a burner phone, a sealed manila envelope labeled property lawyer priority, and a key to a storage unit 2 towns over. I slid the folder onto the bed and sat beside it. No shaking, no rage, just the hum of the ceiling fan and the soft scratch of old paper against leather. I started with the checklist. 1. Contact Dale, estate lawyer. I tapped his name on the burner and waited. He picked up on the second ring like he always did for me. "Frank, it's time." There was a long pause. Then, quietly, "Understood. I'll start the filings." 2. Access a brokerage account and initiate transfer. She never knew the passwords. Said money bored her. Preferred to trust the vibe of her astrologer and spend her paychecks on candles, facials, and overpriced wellness retreats. I opened the laptop I hadn't touched in weeks and typed a 12-digit passphrase only I knew. 2 clicks later, her name disappeared from every linked account. The funds moved to a protected trust under my name, one she couldn't touch even if she tried. 3. Realtor Evan T. Initiate house prep. Our home, her palace, her background for influencer shots and wife life posts, was never in her name. She'd signed that away 6 years ago, bored during a refinancing meeting. "Just tell me where to sign," she said, while texting someone under the table. The deed had been sitting quietly in the trust, insulated. Evan had buyers already lined up. "Get it staged," I told him. "I'll be out in 48 hours. Everything moved like clockwork, because I made it that way. Years of feeling that gnawing suspicion weren't wasted. They were converted into preparation. Like a man boarding up the windows before the storm, not yelling when the wind finally came. I walked the house one last time. The living room still smelled like her eucalyptus diffuser. Her silk robe was slung over the couch like she'd be back in 10 minutes. Upstairs, our bedroom was untouched. Except I wasn't going to sleep here again. I turned over a framed photo on the dresser. Cabo, 4 years ago. Back when I believed we were still in the same story. I didn't break the glass. I didn't burn it. I just placed it face down, respectfully. She wanted space. I'd give her the horizon. By dusk, I had everything moved into the unit. Tools, documents, personal boxes. One trip to the storage facility, a nod to the old man behind the counter, and it was done. No drama, just relocation. I went to the guest room that night, slept on the twin bed where her mother used to stay during holidays. I didn't touch the master. Didn't need to. That life was hers, and I was stepping off the stage. As I lay in the dark, phone face down on the dresser, I let the silence settle over me like a wool blanket. Warm, heavy, final. She didn't know it yet, but her message wasn't a warning shot. It was a trigger, and I had already built the exit ramp. Not for her. For me. The morning after Serena's message, the house felt colder, quieter. Not the kind of quiet that followed an argument, but the kind that came after a decision. The air had weight to it. Not grief, not sadness, just clarity. I brewed a fresh pot of coffee. Black, again. No frothy cinnamon swirl. Just the way I liked it when no one was pretending. The folder sat open on the kitchen table, red leather glowing under the morning sun. I moved through it like a man checking blueprints before pouring concrete. Calm, exact, certain. There was no point in rage. This was about execution, not emotion. Task 1, lawyer follow-up. Dale had sent the documents overnight. Trust maintenance, severance of shared obligations, emergency filings. The estate was already positioned to lock Serena out. She never read the original terms, never cared. A few digital signatures, 2 notarizations, and she was removed from the trust like she'd never existed in it. I dropped the envelope into the outgoing box on the porch and gave Glenn, the nosy neighbor, a nod as he watered his roses. Glenn had spent the last few years watching Serena's influencer lifestyle unfold from across the street. His wife, Carol, once whispered to mine that I seemed too quiet to be in control. She was wrong. Quiet was just the sound control made when it worked properly. Task 2, financial lockdown. By noon, Serena no longer had access to any account tied to me. I pulled her name off every card, froze the line on the joint checking she barely touched, and redirected all auto payments to my personal ledger. She wouldn't notice yet. She was still floating poolside, tagging resorts and sipping mojitos on Gavin's tab. But the cut was made. It was clean. She wouldn't bleed until the bill arrived. Task 3, realtor coordination. Evan showed up right on time, sleeves rolled, sunglasses perched, clipboard in hand. "You sure you want to list it that quietly?" he asked, glancing around the pristine yard she obsessed over every spring. "Full cash, no inspections. You said you had someone." "Yeah, a couple moving from Colorado, retired military and a teacher. Good people." "Good. I don't want this place turned into another content house." Evan chuckled. "You're the calmest seller I've ever worked with." I didn't smile. There's nothing to grieve. The house was never ours. Just a backdrop. Inside, I helped him snap photos. We moved through the kitchen Serena once staged for Instagram stories, through the master bath where she filmed her skincare routines, and down the hallway she never walked without recording herself. By the time Evan left, the listing was queued. Private. No fanfare. That was the difference between her and me. She needed likes. I needed results. Task 4, disengage socially. I logged onto my rarely used Facebook, unfriended her entire circle, blocked Gavin and his company page, and removed the few old college friends we still had in common. I didn't post a cryptic quote, didn't update my relationship status, just deleted the echoes. I wasn't interested in crowdsourced sympathy. Task 5, sentiment. One thing left, the bedroom closet. Her side was still full. Dresses she hadn't worn in years, heels still in boxes, designer purses she pretended to buy on sale. I boxed them carefully, 2 piles. Keep, donate. No perfume spritz, no torn fabric, no shattered frames. Just fabric and leather and tags. Items of a life that had expired. I placed the boxes in the garage with masking tape across the lids. Labeled them with a Sharpie, S closet. Front lawn pickup. I stood in the garage for a moment, letting the stillness settle. There's a difference between leaving and escaping. I wasn't escaping. I was releasing. By nightfall, the lawn was clean, the garage locked, and the only thing left in the master bedroom was the echo of a woman who thought she had forever. I slept in the guest room again, this time with the window cracked open. The air smelled like cut grass and distant rain. My phone stayed face down on the nightstand. No alerts, no calls. She was still posting. Cabo sunsets, poolside laughter, some photo of Gavin with his shirt off, captioned, "Finally free." She had no idea. Freedom was exactly what she was getting, but it wouldn't come with a safety net. Just air and a long way down. I closed my eyes. Let her enjoy the view while it lasts. By Thursday morning, the house was no longer ours. Technically, it had never been ours, since the day she waved through the paperwork like a bored teenager. I'd had her sign over joint ownership during a refinance 7 years ago. At the time, she was too focused on choosing backsplash tiles for the kitchen and snapping photos of the marble samples to ask what she was actually signing. I remember the notary raising an eyebrow. Serena just smiled and said, "I trust him." She shouldn't have. The young couple from Colorado made a full cash offer. No contingencies, no inspections, just a clean break. Retired Army and a schoolteacher. They didn't blink at the asking price. Told Evan it was the best home they'd seen in months. The man even said something about feeling peace when he walked in. I almost laughed at that. Peace was finally back. But not for long. While Evan drafted the closing documents, I sat at my home office, her former content corner, and pulled up the last account that still held Serena's name, the joint brokerage. She used to roll her eyes anytime I brought it up. Said financial talk gave her migraines. She preferred to manifest abundance. That worked fine, until the abundance was no longer hers. The transfer was simple. I had set it up months ago through Dale. A series of timed moves into a protected, irrevocable trust. Serena was never listed as a beneficiary. That detail had been handled long before she ever posted her first husband appreciation reel that featured me like a trophy she didn't clean anymore. Click, type, done. The money she ignored, forgot, and took for granted was now far from her reach. She wouldn't even know until the statements stopped arriving. Not that she ever opened them. Those envelopes usually ended up in a pile near the recycling bin, unopened, branded with banks and brokerages she never bothered to Google. It was surreal how much a person could give away just by being disinterested. I walked through the house that afternoon, not with nostalgia, but with precision. Room by room, I checked the corners. The attic was empty. The garage is clean. I left her yoga mat and ring light in the corner, both staged like props on a set that had wrapped its final episode. I wiped down the kitchen island. Not for her. She wasn't coming back. But for me, because I like things done properly. Even endings. At 3:17 p.m., Evan texted, "All documents signed. Funds are clear. You're officially done." I stared at those words for a long minute. Not because I didn't believe them, but because of how weightless they felt. Done. She was still posting in Cabo. Another beach shot, this time in a red bikini, drink in hand, sunglasses oversized and smug. Gavin was in the background, shirtless, squinting into the sun. The caption, "Finally feeling seen. Hashtag new beginnings, hashtag no filter." I didn't comment, didn't like it, didn't scream into the void. I just tapped the 3 dots and hit report post. Misleading information. It wasn't personal, just cleanup. I forwarded the property sale confirmation to my private inbox and logged out of the shared computer we'd used for years. Then I shut it down, unplugged it, and placed it beside the boxes in the garage. It would go with the rest of her things when the truck came tomorrow. Out of reflex, I glanced at my phone, expecting a message. Nothing. Serena still hadn't noticed. Still floating, still tagging, still bathing in the attention of a man who thought he'd stolen something valuable. All Gavin had taken was her noise. I kept the substance. And the silence? That was mine now. That night I ate dinner alone. Pan-seared steak, roasted potatoes, and a glass of scotch. No candles, no music, just the scrape of my fork and the slow, deliberate chew of a man who had earned his own company. The chair across from me was empty. It had been for a long time. She just didn't notice until now. Friday morning, I opened the garage and rolled out the boxes. 12 in total, all neatly labeled in black Sharpie. Closet, bathroom, shoes, content gear, purses. No damage, no revenge slashes through designer clothes. Just the kind of order that makes people nervous. I stacked them with care along the front walkway, symmetrical, dry, perfectly visible from the curb. It wasn't a statement. It was a receipt. Her Range Rover was still at the airport long-term lot. She'd posted a photo of it on her story the night she left, captioned, "Adios, reality." The house she left behind no longer belonged to her reality. I changed the locks just after lunch. A locksmith named Tony came by in a rusted van. Didn't ask questions. Just nodded when I handed him the printed authorization and cash. He worked quickly, efficient, said nothing except, "Deadbolt tighter now. No play on the strike." Perfect. By 2 o'clock, I had Serena boxed, sealed, and moved out of my life, and she had no idea. I was sipping a cold beer on the back patio when Glenn strolled up the driveway, camera in hand. That old fool was always filming something for TikTok or Instagram, even if it was just squirrels running along the fence line. But this was gold for him. "Frank," he said, eyeing the boxes. "Everything okay?" "Couldn't be better." He looked down at the vanity and makeup box and whistled. "She finally did it, huh?" "Yep. You want me to help get this online?" I laughed once. "You're already filming, Glenn. Just do what you're gonna do." He grinned like a guilty dog, then stepped back and caught the angle with the afternoon sun hitting the boxes just right. I didn't care. Let it go viral. Let the world see what a clean break looks like. By 4 p.m., the sun dipped low enough to cast long shadows over the lawn. That's when I sent the first photo. One snapshot. The curb, her boxes, the lawn she used to obsess over, now her personal storage unit. No caption, no explanation, just an image. I watched the 3 dots appear, then disappear, then appear again, then nothing, for an hour. At 5:17 p.m., she finally replied, "What the hell is this?" I didn't answer. At 5:24, "Frank? Hello? Why are my things outside?" Still nothing. She called. Twice. I let it ring. Her third message came at 5:46. "This isn't funny. Did something happen?" And there it was. She was starting to realize that jokes, for once, weren't part of the plan. By 6:30, Glenn's video was already climbing on TikTok, captioned "Wife left for Cabo. Husband left her stuff on the lawn." The comments section was savage. People love a clean ending, especially when it fits into a 30-second reel. At 7:12 p.m., she tried the encrypted app we used years ago when traveling overseas. "Frank, please, talk to me." I didn't delete it. I just let it sit. The storm didn't need thunder. It needed quiet. I ordered a pepperoni pizza, cracked open another beer, and sat in the living room watching an old Western. Something about a man doing what needed to be done, alone, with no applause. By 9 o'clock, she'd stopped messaging. She'd started realizing. The final detail? I took one of the boxes, lounge clothes and slippers, and placed it just behind the gate where she'd have to walk to see it. Tucked inside was the envelope. 1 page. A notarized letter from my lawyer confirming she had no legal claim to the house. Her name wasn't on the deed. She'd signed away her rights in 2016. The page ended with one simple line, bolded, "You are no longer a resident of this property. All further communication must go through counsel." By the time the moon rose, I had the house to myself. Clean floors, empty closets, a humming fridge, and a silent phone. It was finally mine. Not just the house, the silence. Saturday morning, Serena was still in Cabo, still tanning, still uploading filtered selfies, still posting half-baked quotes about letting go of what no longer serves you, like she was some spiritual pioneer instead of a bored wife sleeping with her boss. She looked radiant in the photos. Loose white linen, gold hoop earrings, drink in hand, tag location. Sunset Reef Luxury Villas. I'd seen the charge hit my card 2 days ago. 5 nights. Presidential suite. Ocean view. Rooftop hot tub. Room service every morning. It was the last charge I allowed. By the time she finished her avocado toast and mimosa ritual by the infinity pool, I was already sipping my second coffee, scrolling through the account notifications. Card ending in 8821. Declined. Card ending in 3049. Declined. Mobile banking access. Disabled. Email recovery request. Blocked. Her financial tether to me was cut, not slashed. Removed with precision, like surgical thread snipped under good lighting. Around 1:17 p.m., I imagined the hotel clerk walking over, awkward, maybe apologetic, as they always are in these places. Tanned arms folded, polite smile, asking Serena if she had another method of payment. She probably laughed. Oh, just try again. My husband must have frozen something. It's fine. Then she'd reach for another card. Another declined. By the time the third one failed, the line between confused and humiliated would be razor thin. Gavin, her boss, the brilliant marketing exec with perfect teeth and spray-on tan, would shift in his seat. Maybe offer to help. Maybe not. The fantasy she built was cracking like a cheap mirror. By 2 o'clock, I got the first call. Straight to voicemail. Then a text. Frank, something's wrong with the bank. Please fix this. No punctuation again. Just like the message that started all of this. I didn't respond. At 2:17, did you cancel the cards? I'm at the front desk. They're saying the charges won't go through. At 2:25, Gavin tried from his number. I sent him directly to voicemail. Then came the third text. The one I had been waiting for. Frank, are you doing this? What's going on? No answer. I imagined her standing in that marble-floored lobby, wrapped in a linen robe, sunglasses sliding down her nose, realization finally landing. He's not calling back. She probably turned to Gavin then, probably tried to laugh it off, maybe even asked him to cover the charges. And that's where it likely happened. The hesitation. The moment every work trip, flirty text, and late night were just venting message stopped being fun and started becoming expensive. Gavin wasn't a husband. He was a boss. And bosses don't like unpaid tabs. I imagined him saying something about keeping things professional or not planning for this. I imagined the red in her cheeks, the shift in her tone, the way her voice would strain as she realized she was about to become that woman. At 3:04 p.m., Serena sent another message. You're really doing this? After everything? After everything? She meant after the years I paid the bills she ignored. After I held my tongue through her passive jabs, her cold shoulders, her quiet disdain for the life we built. After the nights she came home late with excuses that smelled like hotel shampoo and vanilla gin. Yes, after everything. She wasn't losing money. She was losing the illusion that I'd always be there to catch her. At 4:37 p.m., she tried again. We need to talk. Please. The last word made me pause. Not because I believed it, but because I realized she finally understood the game was over. There was no screaming, no all-caps rant, just that quiet, clipped please, like a woman who hadn't packed enough lifeboats. I turned off the phone and set it on the windowsill. Outside, the breeze rattled the trees in my new temporary rental. Nothing fancy, just a small house near the lake. Peaceful, empty, mine. The difference between her escape and mine? She ran toward distraction. I walked into freedom, and while she stood half-naked at a luxury resort desk, wondering where her safety net went, I opened a fresh notebook and began to write down my next steps. Not for revenge, for reinvention. Serena flew home on a red-eye Sunday night. She didn't post much after Saturday, just a black-and-white selfie with the caption, "Growth isn't pretty." No more beach pics. No more Gavin. I figured he left her at the airport or before checkout. A man like that doesn't do baggage, especially when it talks back and can't pay the bill. I didn't check the flight schedule, didn't track her Uber, but I knew the moment she got home, because the calls started again. First one rang at 7:52 a.m., a time she used to say was too early for negativity. Second one came at 7:58. By the third, she gave up on voice and sent a text. Why is there a car in the driveway? Then, who is living in our house? I didn't answer. I didn't have to. The new owners had moved in over the weekend. Evan expedited the handoff. Cash deals move quickly when the seller doesn't blink. The couple had brought their own furniture, painted the kitchen cabinets, and replaced Serena's white minimalist art with framed photos of grandkids and prayer quotes. At 8:15, my phone lit up again. Frank, I'm serious. There's a woman in the kitchen. She said they bought the place. What the hell is happening? I pictured it clearly. Serena, suitcase still trailing behind her, standing in the driveway in designer travel wear, stunned as a stranger sipped coffee from a chipped mug and told her to step off the porch. She must have tried to barge in because at 8:23, she sent this. They showed me papers. It's sold? I never signed anything. This is illegal. I smiled. She had signed. Years ago. Sitting at the kitchen table with her phone in one hand, distracted by an email from her yoga studio, skimming forms she called whatever. I'd slid the deed transfer in between refinance disclosures. Not hidden, just ignored. She wanted the aesthetic of trust. She got the consequence. At 8:41, you sold our house without telling me? You lied to me for years? No, Serena. I just told the truth very quietly, and you weren't listening. Then came the tipping point. At 9:02, a neighbor, probably Glenn, filmed her standing on the front walk, soaked from the morning sprinkler system, yelling at the calm, middle-aged woman now living in her old house. The woman stayed composed. She pointed to the paperwork again, said the title was clean, said the police had already been called. The clip made it to TikTok within the hour. Wife comes home to find she doesn't own the house anymore. Over 200K views before noon. I didn't watch it twice. By 10 a.m., Serena sent a final message. You humiliated me. You ruined my life. I hope you're proud. No, I wasn't proud. Pride implies ego. This wasn't vengeance. It was closed. Not the loud, chest-thumping kind. The kind that comes when you realize you don't have to yell to be heard. I let the silence answer her. By evening, she had nowhere to go. Her Range Rover was still locked up at the airport. The keys were in one of the boxes she never picked up from the curb. I knew she wouldn't go to her sister. They hadn't spoken in a year. Gavin was done. And her so-called friends? They liked drama, not damage. She became what she feared most, irrelevant. Not hated, not cursed, just not part of the story anymore. That night, I sat on the porch of the lake house, feet up on the railing, listening to the crickets. A bottle of beer in one hand, the closing statement in the other. Everything she left behind had new owners now, and none of them were looking back. Serena had one card left to play, our daughter, Maya. The two of them weren't especially close anymore. Serena had always loved the role of young mom, posting throwbacks of them in matching outfits, calling it girl gang, and wine and wisdom nights. But behind closed doors, Maya had grown tired of being reduced to content. Still, I knew Serena would reach out, not because she wanted reconciliation, but because she needed a witness. At 11:43 a.m., I got the heads up. A text from Maya. Just talk to mom. She's spinning. I replied, You okay? She answered fast. I'm fine. She wanted pity. She got clarity. Maya had always been smart. Smarter than both of us, really. She'd seen the shift years ago. Watched Serena grow more self-absorbed, more performative. She once told me during her first year of college that it felt like, Mom wants a brand, not a family. Apparently, Serena called her from a borrowed phone, standing outside the sold house, crying under the overcast sky. She kept saying you stole everything, Maya said later on the call. That she was blindsided, that you were cruel. But all I could think about were the beach photos. Her pretending Cabo was some kind of spiritual retreat when it was just betrayal with a tan. Serena begged Maya to come get her, to talk to me, to explain that families don't do this. But Maya wasn't a kid anymore. She didn't need bedtime stories or censored truths. She told her mother exactly what she thought. Mom, you broke this. Not him. You just didn't expect consequences. Serena tried spinning it. He's punishing me. And Maya, God bless her, said, No, he's finally free from you. That's not punishment. That's peace. Serena fell silent after that. Maya said the last thing she told her before hanging up was, I'm with Dad, not because he asked me to be, but because he earned it. I sat with that for a long time, not because I needed validation, but because there was something powerful about a daughter recognizing the quiet dignity in a man who never made a scene. I never tried to poison Maya against her mom, never twisted facts or fed her one-sided stories. I didn't need to. The truth told itself. And in the end, Maya believed what she saw, not what Serena tried to spin. Later that night, she called me again. We talked for an hour about school, her job, nothing to do with lawyers or breakdowns or betrayal. Just normal things. Things that felt like a new beginning. Before we hung up, she said, "You know what makes you different from her? You didn't burn down the house. You just walked out and left her with the match." She was right. And the silence behind me? That was the sound of a man who no longer needed to explain himself. Monday morning, she got the envelope. Not in person. Not at a fancy house or beachfront condo. At a rundown Airbnb on the edge of town, wedged between a boarded-up convenience store and a tire shop. The address came through when she tried to forward her mail. She probably thought it was temporary. It was permanent now. I'd sent the packet through my attorney, no note, no warning. Just a bundle of crisp legal documents, hand-delivered in a matte black envelope with her full name in gold block lettering. Inside was everything she asked for without knowing it. The dissolution of all joint accounts. The formal exit from the marital trust. The final deed transfer on the house. The last quarterly report on the new irrevocable trust set up solely for Maya. The termination letter for her health and car insurance. And one handwritten note, the only thing I personally added. "You asked for space. I gave you the world between us. No anger, no revenge. Just your freedom in full. Take care, Serena." No dramatic salutation. No lingering regret. Just what she said she wanted, in full legal language and smooth blue ink. She didn't respond right away, but I knew she read it. You can always tell. I imagined her sitting on that lumpy rental couch, surrounded by her luggage and her boxes that never made it out of my garage, rereading the letter with shaking hands. Not because it was cruel, but because it was surgical. It didn't scream. It didn't complain. It didn't care. There was no room to argue with it. Nothing to fight. Just erasure. She texted later that night. "I didn't think you'd actually go through with all of it." No punctuation. Still, I left it on read. 3 hours passed. Then another message. "Do you hate me that much?" It was the first thing she'd asked that felt honest. Not defensive, not performative. Just hollow and afraid. But the truth was simpler than hate. I didn't hate her. Hate is something you feed. Hate is fire. Alive. Loud. What I felt. Nothing that needed feeding. I just removed her from the system. From my accounts. From my home. From the future she assumed would include me no matter how far she wandered. It wasn't about revenge. Revenge requires wanting them to feel what you felt. I didn't care what she felt. I'd let go. She sent one more message around 2:12 a.m. "You're not even going to respond?" Still no punctuation. Still no answer. I closed the message thread and archived it. Not deleted. Not blocked. Just placed it where it belonged, out of view, out of reach, no longer relevant. I made myself a drink. Just bourbon, 1 cube. Sat on the deck and looked up at the stars. They looked different now. Not because they changed, but because I wasn't under the same roof I used to stare at them from. Sometimes the best closure is realizing you don't need a door to slam. You just stop walking back through it. And for the first time in years, I wasn't looking over my shoulder. I wasn't wondering if she'd change, or apologize, or even understand. She didn't need to. She was gone. And I was finally alone. Not lonely. Alone. The good kind. Lisbon was quiet in the mornings. The kind of quiet I hadn't felt in years. Not the forced hush of walking on eggshells around a volatile woman. Not the stiff silence between fights. Just the real thing. Stone streets waking slowly, bakeries opening shutters, the clink of espresso cups and saucers. I sat on a second-floor balcony, sipping mine. No milk, no cinnamon, no syrup. Just bitter, clean coffee. The kind that doesn't try to impress you. Below, the city stretched out like an old man stretching his back. Slow, deliberate, with nothing to prove. I had nothing to prove anymore either. The final document had been cleared 2 days earlier. My lawyer confirmed it. Everything was settled. Serena had officially been removed from every legal tie to me. She had nothing left to contest. There were no appeals, no mediation, just air between us. She didn't message again after that last question. You're not even going to respond? I didn't, and she didn't try again. Maybe it finally sank in that this wasn't a pause. This wasn't a lesson. This was the end. The video of her meltdown in front of the new homeowners had passed 500,000 views. Some people thought it was staged. Others turned her into a meme. But I didn't care about that. I wasn't watching for entertainment. I wasn't watching at all. I'd already seen enough. What mattered now was Maya. She was visiting next month, taking time off work, flying in for a few days. Said she missed me. Said she wanted to walk along the Tagus River and just breathe in peace. She wasn't angry, just clear. And I liked that about her. I'd already written her a letter. Not because I had to, but because I wanted her to have something she could hold. Not digital. Not temporary. Something with weight. Maya, you didn't have to choose sides, but I'm glad you saw the truth. I'm not a perfect man, but I was never a dishonest one. Thank you for standing where it mattered. Your strength reminded me of my own. I'll see you soon. Bring walking shoes. Love, Dad. I placed the letter in an envelope with a pressed flower I found outside the apartment. Something simple. Something real. That's all I wanted anymore. Not performance. Not pretense. Just life. Clean. Intentional. Unapologetic. I glanced at my phone one last time. Nothing from Serena. No calls. No drama. No closure attempt. Good. She didn't deserve an ending wrapped in music and soft words. She got what she asked for, space. And I filled mine. Behind me, the small apartment was neat. A man's space. No ring lights. No diffuser oils. Just solid wood furniture, tools on hooks in the kitchenette, and a bookshelf with pages dog-eared, not color-coded. One framed photo sat on the shelf. Old. Faded. Me and Serena on a road trip 20 years ago. She was smiling before the filters, before the followers, before the boredom crept in. And I was the man she married, naive maybe, but solid. I kept that photo. Not for her. For the man I used to be. A reminder. A marker in the dirt showing how far I'd come. I didn't hate that version of myself. But I wouldn't go back to him. I finished the coffee, stood up, stretched. The air smelled like fresh bread and salt water. Time to walk. Not away, just forward.